everyone, it's LJ here. Welcome back to another video. So basically I just thought I'd do a bit of a quick update on my health. I'm going to apologise in advance. There may be some swearing in this video. There will be some frustration, but I'm going to try and keep as much as possible to the story for you. So this is going to be about my hip. Now, one of the first videos I did on here was about my hip, so I will link, I don't know which side it is. I'm such a bad YouTuber. I'll link it in the cards. Anyway, so I've had hip problems for many a year, probably close to 15 years now. So pretty much half my life. And that video goes into the backstory, so I'm not going to give you the full backstory. But short version, I got told it was because of my weight. I lost weight, the pain got worse. Then they sent me to like the people who deal with muscles, the people who deal with soft tissue, the people who deal with tendons and things, people who deal with just like a physio. I went to see about 8 different people in total. And each one did all the scans, all the tests and went, yep, nothing to do with us. It must be another problem. Passed me on. So that was fine. So eventually 2011, I get sent to my hip surgeon. He's great, very standoffish, but like top of his field. He's really good. Sorry. So he's top of his field, perfect. So he sees me, gives me a steroid injection, does a load of scans, blah, blah, blah. And then in 2013, he did an arthroscopy. So basically they did an operation on my hip, went in, added some pins for security, cleaned up some tears, fixed some bits, sorted. After that, I had about 6 months completely pain-free. It was amazing. It was amazing. I had something called deep release therapy, which is a combination of physio, deep tissue massage and acupuncture. I don't know if I mentioned the acupuncture story in the last video, but it took close to 6 months for her to convince me to do the acupuncture because I don't like needles. I do not like needles. Just talking about it was making my fingers go. So yeah, she did it, and so she had them in my hip joint in various places. And once she'd got them all in, actually it didn't hurt. The getting them in was uncomfortable. I wouldn't say it hurt, but it was uncomfortable. And once I'd relaxed, I was actually sitting there like, do you know what? I could deal with this. If this helps with my pain, then I can do this. And I let out this huge sort of sigh of relief. And I don't know if that's what she was waiting for or what, but now I don't know what she did at the time. She told me afterwards. All I felt was this huge pain that just went all the way through my hip, came all the way up my body, and I threw up. Basically, she'd flicked the needle. I never let her do that again. Never let that happen again. No, thank you. No, thank you. Anyway, I digress. So that was back 2013, 2014. I did the deep release therapy for nearly a year. And although the pain was coming back, so I had the 6 months pain-free where I'd had the physio. And then I started having this deep release therapy about 3 months after my operation. And so 3 months in was when the pain started to return. So then we amped things up a bit, and then I eventually let her do the I've literally just talked about it, acupuncture. So yeah, but then the pain was much worse, blah blah. So I've had, I can't count the amount of steroid injections I've had into that joint. It's the only thing that helps. It helps for a diminishing amount of time. So the first one I had worked for like 2 months, then 6 weeks, then a month. You know what I mean? But it's still relief. So I'll take it. Then I was referred to the pain clinic, and the pain clinic were like, it's nothing to do with your hip. Okay, it's your spine. So we're going to give you painkilling injections in your spine. I was like, right, okay. they're like, don't worry, it won't hurt. We'll give you a local anaesthetic. If it hurts, tell us. 40 minutes of me screaming and crying. After 40 minutes of me screaming and crying, they gave me an epidural for the last 5 minutes. I was asking for it from minute 2. Like the second injection, I was like, please give me some painkillers. This is agony. And I was literally screaming and crying, and the nurse was trying to calm me down for the whole time. And they gave me an epidural, and I was absolutely fine for the last 5 minutes because I didn't fucking feel anything. Anyway, once the epidural wore off, I was in agony. Absolute agony. The injections did absolutely nothing. All they did was waste my time, their time, and actually put me in more pain because I was dealing with the pain of them digging around with the needles in my spine. So that was fun. Then I went back to see the surgeon. I'd been back like multiple times, but I went back in 2017. Yeah, 2017. And he turned around to me and said, look, there is nothing else we can do. We've put this off for as long as possible because of your age, but we're going to have to replace your hip because, you know, you're in so much pain that the injections are having diminishing results. We have to do something to help you. And although I really don't want a huge, lengthy operation, the fact that it could help was like bliss. So that was then. We moved house. We rushed to get the bathroom downstairs done so that I could have my hip replacement, live all on one floor with a bedroom and a bathroom. So we paid exorbitant amount for that bathroom. It doesn't fucking work properly. Side note. To try and get it done ready for the operation. So the operation's booked for a Saturday. Monday I have the problem with my shoulder. I'm sure I did cover this in the last video, but basically my right shoulder, I couldn't move it. I ended up with acute calcific tendonitis. No. Acute something calcification. Oh my god. Basically, calcium deposits in the tendon which have solidified. So I couldn't move my arm, so they couldn't do the operation. So that was in the February. Yeah, that was in the February. So he discharged me because he doesn't deal with shoulders. So I got sent to the NHS. It took them until the end of September to repair it. So from February to September, I couldn't move my arm, couldn't brush my hair, couldn't wash myself, couldn't dress myself, was completely reliant on other people. But they fix it, and like 3 weeks later, it's absolutely fine. So I go back to work, everything is great. I see the hip surgeon. He says, cool, your shoulder's fixed. We'll book you in next year. I'll put you on the waiting list now. We'll get you in next year to do your hip. Winning. Just before we finish for Christmas, one of the TAs in my class is like, your shoulder's dropped. I'm like, what? No, it's not. It's not. I'm just ignoring it. No, it's fine. Ignored it all over Christmas. Wasn't really in any pain, but it was definitely like hanging lower. So then in the January, I wake up one day and I can't move my arm. Absolute floods of tears. Get an appointment with the doctor. I go in, I say to the doctor, look, I'm fairly sure this is the same issue as last time. The pain's in the same place. I can't move my arm. I'm freaking out. And he's like very concerned. So he sends me straight for an x-ray right there and then. So I go and have this x-ray. I'm in floods of tears. Like I'm still crying from this whole experience. This is about 10 o'clock. I'd woken up for work. Got an appointment at the doctor's, called at 8. It's only a couple of hours later. I get to the x-ray. I'm still in floods of tears. She's trying to calm me down so she can take the x-ray, bless her. Now, I know that x-ray techs are not trained to read x-rays. They can read them, don't get me wrong. They've done the job long enough. They know what they're looking for. You know, they have to be aware of the anatomy and situations, but they can't read it. They don't know every problem. That's not their job. And so normally they won't show you your x-rays. And I was in floods of tears. I was like, please just show me. I don't want you to diagnose me. I just need to look at it, because if it looks the same as my other shoulder, at least then I know. And I think the fact that I was so distraught, she was like, I shouldn't really, but here, have a look. So she showed me it, and I can see the white lumps in my shoulder. I was in bits, absolutely in bits. So I get back, I call the doctors. I say, look, obviously they're going to send you the x-rays, but I'm fairly sure it's the same thing. It was. Came back as exactly the same problem, but worse. So they decide, rather than go, hey, we're going to give you an operation, because that's exactly what worked last time. No, we're going to give you physio. Okay, you can give me physio exercises. I can't move my arm to complete the exercises, but you give me physio exercises. So they tried physio for 6 weeks, obviously after a wait. So this was in January. April, I started physio. Couldn't do any of the moves because I physically couldn't lift my arm. Like, there was just no movement. It was compressing on all the tendons, all of the muscles. I couldn't physically move my arm. My arm was solid. And then they were like, well, we think it's just a cold shoulder. No, it's not a cold shoulder. I've had the tests to prove it's not a cold shoulder. Anyway. So there goes until October. End of October. They eventually do the operation and fix it. It was a much longer operation because the shoulder was much worse. I also had bursitis that they had to fix, so that was fun. So yeah, that was the October 2019. It took a long time to recover. During 2019 was when I'd started to get the lupus diagnosis. So because I'd had these lumps of calcium in my shoulders, my hip surgeon was concerned because there were some lumps in my pelvis. So he sent me to a gastroenterologist, quite a few ologists. And I ended up at the rheumatologist. And so after all the tests and blah, blah, they were like, yeah, lupus. Okay, great. So I go back and see the hip surgeon. We have a lot of discussions. And he says, look, if your shoulders are fixed, I'm more than happy. But having seen the recovery time for your shoulder, so the first shoulder was recovered within 3 weeks. This one, it was October that I had the operation, and I wasn't ready to go back to work until March when lockdown started. Yeah. Because this was 2018, this was 2019, and then I was due to go back to work the week lockdown started. So I was isolating for a lot longer than the 10 months of COVID, but hey ho. Anyway, so he's like, that was a huge recovery. We need your lupus under control before we can do your hip because it's a much bigger surgery. So I was really disheartened, but I was like, okay, fine, I get it. So a couple of years later, we're now 2022. No, we're now 2021, sorry, end of 2021. So that was the end of 2019. So, no, start of 2020, sorry, because this was the February, yeah, and I still wasn't back at work. It was also around the same time that they started me on the methotrexate. And so he was like, look, methotrexate is a really good drug. Hopefully they'll get it under control. And as soon as it's medically under control, doesn't mean I have no symptoms, but it's medically under control with your blood work, then we'll do your hip. Perfect. So I go back in December 2021. Well, in the summer of 2021, I get told your lupus is medically under control. They sent a letter to my hip surgeon. So I get the appointment, it's December 2021. So I go in December, and I think I did a video about this appointment, which I will link, because it was arduous. And he says, go and have this scan, this radioactive CT, I think it was, I can't remember. So I've done a video about going to that appointment because, I mean, it was great. I got injected with radioactive stuff, but the whole appointment was quite upsetting for a variety of reasons. So I have that scan in December, before Christmas. I'm like, that was really quick. Okay. So I wait and I wait and I wait. And I'm hearing nothing from my hip surgeon. So I'm like, what? So I keep phoning and I keep missing them and all this stuff. Because of long COVID, I was sleeping lots and, ridiculousness. Anywho, I eventually get hold of them and they're like, oh, you've had your scan. Yeah, I had it in December. You would have had the results in December. It's now June. So I get an appointment for, I think it's the 5th of July. Very end of June or start of July. So we go to this appointment. My best friend comes with me, thank fuck. Because I genuinely don't remember any of this appointment. And this is where I apologise if I get angry and ranty and sweary. So we go into the appointment. I'm all prepped and ready for him to say, yeah, let's go. Let's get this hip replaced. Bear in mind that I'm in agony. We've just come off the steroids. So everything hurts more because although the steroids was treating certain issues, obviously it would be treating all the inflammation. So it had reduced some of my issues. So since coming off the steroids, I've been in agony constantly. Anyway, so we get there, he's in, we talk through the scan. He's like, I'm amazed. Okay, so he shows me this scan. He talks through like what the colours mean and blah, blah. He says, your skeleton is in perfect condition. Well, A, how can it be perfect condition when you looked at it 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and told me the hip needed replacing? I don't know how it's healed itself in that time, but sure, okay. He's like, your skeleton's amazing. And I was like, right, so what does that mean? He said, well, it means we don't need to replace your hip. Okay. So why am I in agony? And this is when he turns round and he says to me, it's just overloaded. You need weight loss surgery. I'm going to refer you to a bariatric surgeon. Don't get me wrong. I'm not happy with my body. When I was on steroids, I developed Cushing's. I think there's a video for that. I'll try and link some videos down below for you. It'll be in my lupus health update playlist. So I was doing really well despite all the hip pain, especially when I had the lack of hip pain. I was going to the gym really well. I lost a load of weight. I was actually starting to get quite happy with the way my body looked. Then I went on steroids and I developed Cushing's, which is a reaction to the high dose steroids that I was on. And I just ballooned in size. Now don't get me wrong, since I've come off the steroids, I've lost over a stone. Not through any change in my diet or exercise, just because I've come off the steroids. So, I'm sitting in his office and he's like, yeah, I'm going to refer you to a bariatric surgeon. Yeah, I could do with losing some weight. But I'm not at the point where I need a surgery that could kill me to save my life. My lack of mobility is the pain in my hip. You know, he said, I'm surprised your knees aren't in pain. Your knees aren't in pain. You're so overweight. I'm like, so at this point, I'm just in floods of tears for two reasons. Firstly, because it's back to being my fault because I'm overweight. That's why I'm in pain. It's not, but okay. I've had this pain at a whole variety of weights, from where I am to being much, much thinner. But anyway, the second reason I'm in floods of tears is because he says he's discharging me. He can't help me. So the bariatric surgeon is going to help me lose weight. Wonderful. It means I'll never eat properly again because you can't after bariatric surgery, and I have to deal with years of probable malnutrition because you don't get all the nutrition you need after bariatric surgery. But hey ho. But now I'm back at the start with no one looking into my hip pain. And then he said, well, it must be like soft tissue or something. I was like, they've ruled all that out before referring me to you. I was fucking angry. Thankfully, my best mate was there to listen to the rest of the stuff he had to say. He didn't say very much, to be fair. But there were a few other bits and pieces that he commented on. But I'm just sitting in the chair in tears because all I can see is another 15-year journey with no one knowing why I'm in this much pain. Sorry. Like, when I say I'm in pain constantly, there is not a moment where I'm not in pain. I have pain in other areas, but the vast majority of pain is my hip. And so I was really looking forward to, although the hip replacement is a fucking horrific operation and I don't want another operation, the fact that it would give me so much pain relief. Like, every person I've spoken to, my nan had a hip replacement. She said it gave her a brand new life. Like, I was so looking forward to that. Sorry. Yeah, I was just really looking forward to the possibility of not being in constant pain, and to think that I've now got to go back to the start and fight for someone to believe that it's not because I'm overweight. Don't get me wrong, the weight isn't going to help because it's extra weight on my bones. But if my skeleton is perfect, then it's not overloaded due to my weight. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, it just worries me that all they're going to see now is it's a weight thing and no one's going to take me seriously, and I'm just going to be in this pain forever. I really don't want to be in pain for the rest of my life. And if you don't have chronic pain, I know a lot of you can relate, but if you don't have chronic pain, what you don't realise is it's not just you're in pain. You're tired because you're in pain. You're irritable because you're in pain. You're angry because you're in pain. You can't do things because you're in pain. When you do try and do things, it fucks you up for several days afterwards. Like, for me personally, I grieve the person that I used to be. I used to dance professionally. Like, now I can barely walk up a set of stairs without being in tears because of the pain. Like, it's so hard to explain. It's more than just being in pain. It's not like you've broken an arm and you're in pain for 6 weeks and then you're out of a cast and you're healed and it's gone. It's not like that. And my second huge fear is if there is genuinely nothing wrong with my hip, why am I in pain? Do I actually have fibromyalgia like they suggested? At which point I'm fucked, because the NHS doesn't really take fibromyalgia as a legitimate diagnosis anyway. And once you have it, very similar to lupus, any problems you have, oh, it's that. Any new problems I have, oh, it's the lupus. No, it's not the lupus. This is something else. No, it's the lupus. I got a toothache. Oh, it's the lupus. No, it's because my tooth is broken. And they do that with fibromyalgia. It's one of those, like, catch-alls that they don't really believe, but they bung everything into so they don't have to deal with it. Or do I just have complex regional pain syndrome? And it's starting in my hips. Like, there are so many things that scare the crap out of me.
Alternatively, it's all in my head, which brings other issues
that are a possibility now, whereas before it was just I needed a new hip and I would probably be fine. Sorry. So yeah, that's my latest update, and I don't know what's going to happen now. So I've been referred to this bariatric surgeon in London. Yeah. I wouldn't even mind. But I have no appetite. Since I got COVID in January, and since I've been dealing with long COVID, I have no appetite. I don't eat breakfast, I don't eat lunch. Like, half the time I have a slice of toast for dinner. I have no appetite. I'm not interested in food. Food is just blur. Like, I'm just not eating that much. Don't get me wrong, I'm not doing that much, so it's not like I'm losing tons of weight because I'm eating less. But I just have no appetite. So it's not even like I still have issues with binging and stuff like I used to, which I did. Like, I'm not even in that place anymore. And it's still all being blamed on my weight. It crushes me. It really crushes me. I know that being overweight causes problems. I'm not trying to dispute that in any way, shape or form. I'm aware operations are harder when you are overweight. Medications are harder when you're overweight. General cost to the health service is more when you're overweight. All of these things. but I'm in so much pain that I can barely do an exercise that gets my heart rate going. Like, I can go for walks and things, that's fine. But if I try and do anything that gets my heart rate up, I'm having to put a lot of effort in, and it's just agony. And I don't want to use that as an excuse, which is why I wanted this fucking operation, so I could be out of pain and just be, like, done with all this shit. And it just frustrates me because if I hadn't had issues with my shoulders or I hadn't had lupus, I'd have had my hip replaced years ago and would hopefully not be in this pain. I don't know. I just don't know where to go from here, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, that's where I'm at. That's why I feel like crap at the moment, and it's why I've kind of given up. But yeah. That's all from me today. Sorry, it's been a bit of a bummer video. It's just kind of where I'm at right now. Thank you all so much for being here. You're amazing. And I'll see you on the next one. Lupy love.